Hello, it's Miss Rachel with the Prattville Public Library. Today we are making our friendship bracelets craft, and in addition to the kit here, you will also need a pair of scissors. So we're going to open up our kit and take all the stuff out. Everyone got a different color of beads, so it's kind of a you get what you get type of situation. And then we've got a couple strands of yellow yarn, a couple strands of black, 2 strands of blue, and 2 of red. And we're going to take our masking tape and we're going to use that to secure everything to our desk here. And actually, before we tape anything down, I think what I'm going to do is make a game plan for which colors I want to use. So you can use all the colors if you want, or you can pick and choose which ones you'd like to have. I'm going to use, for today's version, this purple sparkly bit, because that's the most fun part, I think. And I'm going to use my two red strands and my 2 blue strands. And now that I know what I'm using, now we can go ahead and tape it down. Also, before I tape it down, just to get started, I'm going to make sure everything is straightened out in a nice little row. And I'm going to cut my beads in half so that they're not quite so long, because we're trying to make a bracelet today and not a whole necklace. So I wanted to get that length a little bit more manageable for myself so I don't get as many tangles and as much of a mess going on. Now we can take our masking tape and tape down all 5 strands. Put them kind of right next to each other so that I don't have to use a whole ton of tape, and so that it's a little bit easier to wrap them over one another. Perfect. And then I'm going to do a couple of extra pieces of tape to hold everything down, just to kind of reinforce it. Just over the tape that's already there. We don't want to cover up too much of our string, but we do want to be sure that it holds down so that we can pull on the individual strands without them popping up. Perfect. So now we're going to use a technique similar to what you did if you did the keychain craft with me, where we're going to tie and loop the threads around each other. So I'm going to take these 2 blue threads and cross them over the purple. Move the reds aside, and then I'm going to cross them under the purple and loop through. And then I'm going to tighten that just like a knot right above one of the beads. I'm just trying to get both my strands lined up. There we go, very good. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but with the red. I'm going to cross it this time under the red, or under the purple, I mean, and then going over the purple and around to loop through, and then I'll scoot that loop up to the next gap between the beads and pull it tight. So what this is going to do is create a pattern of blue, red, and it's going to kind of soften the texture of these beads on your wrist as well. So it'll be a comfier bracelet. And you're adding in different color elements, and you're having fun, hopefully. So it's a win-win-win. Remember to pull tight after each part you do. And just continue this as far as you'd like to go, remembering that we're just making a bracelet. We don't need the whole length of the beads necessarily to be wrapped up here with this yarn, because we will be able to trim it whenever we get it long enough to go all the way around our wrists and get secured. Let me adjust my camera angle a little bit so you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. There we go. So I just did a red, so now I'm going to do a loop with the blue, put it under, loop it over, and then pull through the loop like you're tying a knot, and bring it up to this next open gap and pull tight. And switch back to red, go under, over and through, and go up towards the tippy top, but not the one we've already tied. We're skipping to the next gap and pull it tight. And you just keep alternating until you are happy with the pattern you've got and you're happy with the length. So I'm going to continue tying and tightening. And the fun part about this, the friendship part about these bracelets, because it's Friendship Month and we've got our friendship books and activities through our partner highlights during this month of November. The friendship part is when you're done, you have all of this still left over, so you can make another bracelet for your best friend. One for you and one for your buddy. Tight, over, do the blue one. This would be a good time to do this with friends too if you wanted. You could create together, you could come up with the color schemes together. You could even do the same exact color scheme and do the same bracelet for both of y'all if you want them to match. And I'm getting my string a little bit separated. That's okay. There we go. Got it straightened out. So it kind of creates a braid-like pattern going up and down the beads. You can keep your knotting, your tying, up close to the beads that have already been tied if you prefer, or if you have an easier time with it, you can do it down below, far away, and then pull gently and wiggle them up into the gap between the beads where you want them to be. Sometimes that part's a little tricky to get them to wiggle out of whichever gap was closest to them in the moment. Looking good. I'll probably do about 4 more knots And then I think I'll have enough length to try on my bracelet, and then I'll show you how you can secure it on your wrist. There's one. Two. 3. And 4. And once we get this one situated, there we go. I'm going to go ahead and take both of my yarn pieces of both colors and tie a knot like you're tying your shoes. I'm going to make that a double knot. Then we've got that end secured and ready to go. If you'd like, you can do a bonus knot around the next gap between the beads. You can put the blues on one side and the red strands on the other, and do one more double knot just to kind of straighten things out. So there's half of my double knot. And the other half. Brilliant. Now, carefully untape the other end. In fact, I'm going to pick up the whole thing, tape and all, and kind of flip it around so that this end is towards me. And I'm going to take the tape off one layer at a time. And then we're going to tie this end up with a similar technique. We're going to tie the yarn together in a double knot. Be sure to be above where you started knotting on the beads. And then to secure the whole thing, you'll set it down, put your wrist on it, and you can take the bead part and twist one of the ends, pop the gaps together, and twist them one time, and you'll be set. Now we just have to trim our edges. So I'm going to make a note that we've got 3 beads on either side of that knot there. So I remember that. So I'm going to cut after 1, 2, 3 beads. I'm going to make a cut and set these aside for another bracelet for another time. And I will also trim my yarn. And I'm just making sure before I trim it real fast that my knot is holding, and it is. So I'm going to trim the yarn just a little bit shorter so that there's not quite so much fluff happening at the end. There we go. I trimmed both sides. Again, if you have longer pieces like this that you're left with, you can use them for something else. And then we'll use that same technique I mentioned where you cross the beads over one another and smush the gaps together, and then do a little bit of a twist. Kind of hard to do one-handed. You can have your friend help you with this. Do a little bit of a twist, and then your bracelet is secured, and you have a unique handmade friendship bracelet with a little bit of sparkle and a little bit of softness from the yarn, and you are good to go. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Have a wonderful day.